The entire premise of this book is that we treat professional relationships and client relationships as if this is a brand new world. You're saying entrepreneurs, you just used the phrase like entrepreneurs that are just getting started and don't know what to do. And the entire premise of this book is, but you do know what to do. You already know the answers to these questions because we've all dated somebody, right? We've all had interpersonal relationships of some nature. But then when it comes to business, we start treating it like it's this brand new thing and we don't know how to deal with people and what the best way to dress for my client as an example. What do I do to impress my client? I don't know. What did you do to impress your last date?
It's time to reinvent.
Welcome to Reinventing Perspectives. Today we have an amazing guest. We have Mark Young, a marketing entrepreneur, and he's the author of an Amazon bestseller called Date Your Client. So we're in for a treat today, Mark. This is everything that new entrepreneurs want to know about. How do I get those clients? So we're so excited to have you and honored to have you. Please let us know, Mark, who are you and what's your mission?
Thanks, Priscilla. I appreciate the invite and thank you for having me on the show. Yeah. I mean, you jumped right in and said I'm an entrepreneur. I'm actually a marketing guy. I actually own and operate my own marketing advertising agency based here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And funny enough, like I wrote the book called Date Your Clients, but what I'll say unusual about it is that the book actually started as an email to one of my clients. And that's a question that I get most often is what in the world inspired you to write this book? And I laughingly say it started as an email and I had a client who was not understanding or at least not digesting some of the information that we were providing to her about an ad campaign. And I was like, okay, I get it, but let me give you a comparison. Like so you're on TV, but then people are seeing your TV ad, but you're telling them everything there is to know about you. And like the point of the TV ad is intrigue. Then they go to your website and they learn a little bit more about you. Then they want to learn a little bit more about you. And if you have an online dating profile, you don't want to tell everything there is to know about you. It's just supposed to be some intrigue. I want to meet you. I want to learn everything. And then when you go on that first date, you're not going to spill all the secrets. You want to talk, you want to make a relationship, you want to build that organically. And so what's funny is that email I just kept writing and writing, and next thing I have a book.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And I think you hit on something right there that I think any entrepreneurs, that's our audience, Mark. We're so after trying to get that sale. And people keep saying marketing is so slow to get the results. Now put marketing aside and focus on just going after the sale. What would you say to any entrepreneur?
I would say that a lot of entrepreneurs make a fatal error. And when sales are slow, I'm going to slow down the marketing until it catches up. And I'm always like, well, that's the exact opposite of what you should do. When you're having problems with your sales, that's when your ad budget should be going up, assuming that you're measuring it and you're getting a return on investment from your ad spend and doing it correctly. But the reality is that too many entrepreneurs, you said something there and said, I'm not going to focus on marketing. I'm just going to go after the sale. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But those things need to go hand in hand. How you're doing the marketing, of course, is a different conversation. It needs to be done strategically. But the reality is that for companies that expect, and this is my personal opinion, and it's what this book is based on as well, for companies that expect long-term relationships with their client, and that we call it a lifetime value. If you want a lifetime value with the client, you need to invest in a relationship. It's the hookup at the bar versus the marriage. And if you're looking for a one night stand with your client and just trying to get a quick sale and send the client on their way, there are ways to do that. There are very tactical ways to get somebody's credit card number. But if you're really looking to build a brand reputation and you're looking to actually have a long-term relationship with your client, which includes repeat purchases, which includes increased cart values, which include word of mouth advertising because they talk about you, because they like you and they tell their friends about you. You need to build a relationship, and that relationship is 100% essential to developing those types of brand ambassadors.
Well, it's like, how did you get to that point? I know this was a response to your client, but how did you come up with this concept for yourself as an entrepreneur? If you can tell us just your journey.
I would say the best lessons I've ever learned are the ones I learned the hard way. And the reality is that I think a little bit of it just comes with maturity, Priscilla. And that is the more you do this, the more you realize what works and what doesn't. And for me, working with my clients, I do some of the weirdest stuff with and for my clients. Last week, I was on a conference call because one of my clients couldn't figure out how to do their own accounting. And I ended up on the telephone with the client, a consultant, and their bookkeeper, literally on a screen share, teaching them how to do accounting for their business because I was an accountant in the first career of my life. So it just, and again, it's for nothing other than building the relationship. It's not because I charge for it. It's not because I'm a financial consultant. I'm a marketing guy, but I want my clients to be able to do well. And that means investing in them in all sorts of different ways as needs arise. So for that particular client, yeah, I get intimately involved in some of the goofiest things that they don't even pay me for, but the relationship that we've built is lifelong, absolutely lifelong. And we talk about that word of mouth, for instance. One of my other largest clients is her cousin. And it's because they've referred us to other people and talk about how amazing we are to everybody that they know. And I've introduced her to other professional networks of mine. And it's building those relationships with people. And a lot of people, I'll say, unfortunately, Priscilla, a lot of entrepreneurs make very cash flow driven decisions rather than good business decisions. And that's one of my pet peeves is if you're following the cash, you're going to make short-term decisions because you're going to do whatever it takes to make the bank balance bigger today. But if you're actually making good business decisions, it's going to lead to bigger bank balances in the future, but it's going to require some investment in people. But people will reciprocate.
I totally agree with you, Ma. But I said, I know what people are thinking as early entrepreneurs. I said, I got to start with that for the entrepreneur that says, but Mark, I need the money like today. I can't engage in the process of dating my client. Which I want you maybe to tell us a little bit more about what exactly you mean by date your client and a little bit about the book.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let me say this, and that is, I do understand the I need the money today. I do understand the cash flow issues. Been there, done that. So what I'll say from the date your client perspective, and that is the entire premise of this book is that we treat professional relationships and client relationships as if this is a brand new world. You're saying entrepreneurs, you just used the phrase like entrepreneurs that are just getting started and don't know what to do. And the entire premise of this book is, but you do know what to do. You already know the answers to these questions because we've all dated somebody, right? We've all had interpersonal relationships of some nature. But then when it comes to business, we start treating it like it's this brand new thing and we don't know how to deal with people. And what's the best way to dress for my client, as an example? What do I do to impress my client? I don't know. What did you do to impress your last date? And some of the conversations that I have in this book is, for instance, when you went on a first date last time, I guarantee you spent at least an extra 30 minutes getting ready, right? You showered a little longer, you spent a little bit more time in the mirror, you picked your clothes a little better, maybe you did some push-ups, maybe you did your makeup a little more, like whatever. You spent a little bit of extra time preparing for that moment. And yet, when you go and meet with a new customer, do you pay attention to how you present, or is it just another Tuesday? And for you, it's another day in the office, but for them, it's a first impression. It's a first time they've ever met you. And yet you present it like it was just a Tuesday afternoon. And those are my arguments that you already know how to make a good first impression because you've taken that time before. You already know how to build relationship because you've built relationship before. And clients are people, and clients see through fake. They see those things, and people want to do business with people they like. That at the end of the day, and I tell people all the time, if your client didn't buy from you, it's not because of what you were selling. It's because they didn't buy you. They didn't choose you. And at the end of the day, as an example, like I may have written the best book imaginable, but if people listening to your podcast don't like me, they don't buy the book. It has nothing to do with the quality of the book. It's everything to do with the quality of the presentation. And that's exactly what we delve into here in the book. You already know this stuff. You know how to make good impressions. You know how to nurture a relationship. You know these things. Except I watch it all the time on Instagram, Priscilla. It's somebody going and posting all of their stuff about, oh, today's going to be the day that you think like a millionaire. And really, that what I needed morning was another inspiration on a pretty background with a waterfall. Like now, all of a sudden, I'm going to have a better day. And I think, no, quit trying to go into the cheat sheet. Quit trying to read the cliff notes. Quit trying to inspire your way into something else. You already know this stuff. If you didn't spend an extra half hour getting ready for your client meeting today, you didn't date that client. You didn't spend the time getting ready for them. If you don't stay in communication, one of the things I find, I'm going to distract myself. You mentioned the cash decision. I need the cash today. What do I do? And I'll say this, most entrepreneurs that I see are so busy chasing new clients that they don't take the time to nurture the old client. And they don't realize that it's so much easier to make a sale with a client that already knows you and is already satisfied with whatever it is you're offering than it is to try to go find somebody else new. How much time are you spending nurturing your existing client base? No different than how much time am I spending dating my wife because I take it for granted. She's going to be there anyways. And no, when did I take the time to put Friday night aside and date my wife the way before marriage? And that same type of consideration needs to be there because those people that already exist in your life and are already fans of yours and are already in relationship with you need the nurturing too. And yet we tend to ignore them.
Hey, small business family, quick pause here. If you've been listening and thinking, I need help getting clear on my message and how to actually market this amazing thing I've created, I've made something just for you. It's called the Clarity Intensive, and it's 2 focused sessions, one-on-one, where we untangle your ideas, map out your next best move, and build a foundation for real business momentum. If you're done thinking what's the right thing to do and you're ready for a customized strategy that fits you, this is for you. You'll find the link in the show notes, or you can visit the website www.reinventingperspectives.com/shop, and you'll see our Clarity Intensive one-to-one marketing coaching. Let's get back to the show.
Wow, this is such a powerful concept, Mark. I like that you also touched on the digital space. I'll let you talk a little bit about that. What does it look like when you are dating your client on digital? Because I think all of us, especially you entrepreneurs, we've all been very guilty of the inspiration and just copying what we see other people doing. What should that look like, Mark?
Well, I will frame the question a little bit and say in the digital space, one of the things I will say is that we both exist in a digital space right now. We're meeting for the first time in a digital environment. The reality is that nothing will ever, in my opinion, replace knees to knees, face to face conversation. And sadly, I will say, while COVID made Zoom a very profitable company, the reality is that nothing will ever replace face to face human relationship. And unfortunately, I will say that we've gotten to be a very lazy generation that we text message each other happy birthday and we Facebook message happy birthday. I'm sorry, I remember mailing birthday cards to people. I remember calling people on their birthday to sing them happy birthday or to just wish them a good day. And nowadays, it's about text messaging. And I know people who've been offended because you didn't text me happy birthday. I called and left you a voicemail. You didn't answer your telephone. You could have texted me. No, I'm a human. I'm not a robot. I can program my phone to text you every year. This is about relationship. And to the client thing, I'll say the same thing. We get so lazy because we shoot emails off like they're cotton candy. We just shoot them off into the atmosphere and expect people to reply to them. And the reality is that it's very unrelational. Email, text messages, those are really convenient ways to communicate if we already have a relationship. But if we don't have a relationship, do not reply on these little digital nuances to do that for us. It's not okay. And unfortunately, I'll argue, I'm going to date myself here, Priscilla, and tell you, I'm going to be seen really old. When I tell you that there's so many people, particularly you talk about the digital space, I mentioned Instagram, and I'll say too many people think they know people because they follow their profile. And I laugh because I get people all the time that'll say, "Oh, I saw your social media. Oh my gosh, your life's amazing." Like, you know nothing about my life. You see my vacation photos, you see the highlight reel because that's all anybody posts on social media is the highlight reel. And I seen recently there's been a lot of studies that have been done on social media, particularly over the last couple of years. And they talk about this relational deprivation that people feel that by comparison, their lives are terrible because they watch everybody else's lives on social media and they all look so great. And yet all I see are the good points of everybody else's lives, but all I see are the bad points about my own. And if you were in genuine relationship with people, you see the good and you see the bad. And you realize that your life is very similar to other people's around you. And I'll juxtapose that to a date your client comparison. And I will say, one of the things that I deal with my clients on a regular basis, that is most of my clients are small business entrepreneurs. And I start the conversation with, look, I understand what cash flow problems look like. I understand that entrepreneurs have a unique set of struggles that nobody else understands. I understand these things. Like, I want to be a business partner with you because I understand these things and I know the struggles you're having. I get that you want to do all of the big stuff, but you can't. And I get that you don't want to admit it, that you're having cash flow problems. And I get that's embarrassing. And I get that you're frustrated. And I get that if you had all the money in the world, you'd pull the trigger tomorrow. Let's talk about how we can actually make it work and let's deal with the budget. I have a call today with a client who is just loves everything we've told her about what we can do for her company, but keeps coming back to what if we did this and we did this and maybe a little bit of this. And I finally I'm telling her, I'm like, look, here's the deal, Caroline. Like, nothing that we have told you is wrong. And I believe that you agree with 100% of it. So let's talk about the real problem, and that is the money. How do we do the things we've presented to you in a way that keeps your cash balanced and in a way that keeps your business thriving, but doesn't break you in trying to come up with cash? Like, clearly that's the problem. And she almost cried. She's like, that's exactly it. We've been burnt by so many companies in the past where we've given up cash. She's like, and only to get hurt. And she goes, and now we're in a position that we meet someone like you and we want to move forward, but man, we're out of money. We're just, this is our last play before we're out of money. And I'm concerned about it. I'm like, great, go talk to your business partner and call me on Monday and let's figure out how to make this work together. We're not going to break your bank. How do we make this work and move forward? Let's partner. And it's relationship. It's all relationship.
This is amazing. I think there's so much that you said there that's so important. And I love that you bring it back to the client as a person. And if you build a relationship with the client and you understand the client, that's the way to create a long-lasting relationship. Like you said, even online, people ignore the people who are currently following them because they're chasing the next 1,000 people that they want to follow them.
That particular client, I laugh because their current website is one of the biggest problems for them. And I told them that. And she's, what do you think the biggest problem is? I'm like, the biggest problem is that you spend your entire website talking about you. And I don't care about you. I care about me. And she's, what? I'm like, the biggest problem that most companies have, particularly entrepreneurial brands, is they build these websites that just talk about themselves. Nobody went to a website to read about you. I want to know how you can affect me. I only buy products that enrich my life. If you're going to tell me about your product, tell me about how it affects me. I don't want to know all your science. I don't want to know all of your, how is it going to affect me? Quit talking about you. I don't care. And you got about 3 seconds to get my attention or I'm going to go look for someone else. And it's the truth.
It is. And it's so important. The thing is, Mark, when you're starting out, the people who build websites and the people who help with marketing messages are two completely different people. And then you might think, oh, as long as I've hired someone to make a pretty website, that, okay, the website was done and I didn't have to look at that again. And I like that you bring that up because most people don't know that.
And that's the conversation we have all the time, is that you hired someone to build your website and then you hired someone to do your marketing. I'll use that particular client as an example. And she's, what if we just started running ads? I'm like, you can do that. I'm like, I don't want to do it for you. And she's, you don't want to do that? I said, no, because you're going to run ads to a website that's broken. Like, your site is awful, which means you're gonna judge my marketing based on how your website converts. And I may go get you the best qualified leads in the world. But if they get to your website and your website doesn't make sense, you're going to see them as non-converting leads. And the reality is they may have been great converting leads as long as you had someone to do it. It's like me driving traffic to your retail store, but you left the door locked. Like, doesn't matter how much goes there. So you're right. The person who's building your website, a website construction is a technical skill. Marketing is a strategic skill. And unfortunately, those two skill sets seldom lie in the same person. And that's the problem. And we try to build a business with all these silos and all these vacuums. And the reality is that it all needs to be integrated. And that's really what we bring to the table. And the same thing holds true. And I'll go back to date your client. Same thing goes for relationships. I can't be one thing to one person and one thing to someone else. I need to consistently be me. Through business relationships, through personal relationships, all of them are the same. And the common denominator with every relationship in my life is me. And I need to make sure that I'm genuine and consistent in all of those ways.
Mark, I like that you talked about the approach to marketing, which I think is very important. And I think if people get that, they're really going to get a lot out of that. And from the book, Date Your Clients. Now it's the entrepreneur who says, okay, Mark, but how should I present myself? Should I be like a brand, or should I be myself, or how should that concept of brand for any
Sure. I'll give you an answer to that. And I'll say too many small businesses are busy trying to be a brand. And the reality is that brands are few and far between. And I guarantee you that the company that is trying to quote unquote brand themselves, it's like, if you're not Nike, you're not a brand. And every small business in town, they could change their name, they could change their logo, they could change anything about them. And it's not going to change anything about their business, because the reality is most people buy the product they like. And that people spend so much money on quote unquote branding that they're not big enough for. The reality is that your money should be spent making more money, and it should be spent converting a new client. Now, to your question is, should they be building a brand, or should they personally be building themselves and selling things and building that persona? And my answer to it is always that people buy from people. People don't buy from businesses. I buy from people I like. And it's the reason why online influencers are so powerful nowadays in the social media world, because I buy from people who tell me they like things. I buy from people I trust. I don't buy from a brand because I saw an ad, albeit that does happen, not at the frequency that it happens when somebody tells me. It's why celebrity endorsements are so powerful. The fact that you can afford Jennifer Aniston doesn't mean you have better skincare. Okay, it just means you can afford Jennifer Aniston, but she's beautiful and I like her, so I'll go ahead and try your product. There's nothing scientific about that other than the psychology of knowing that people will buy it because Jennifer Aniston told them to. So you get these influencers out there that have thousands or tens of thousands of followers, and people feel like they know them. And because they feel like they know them, they get very engaged with them and they buy products they like. So to your answer, if I were an entrepreneur trying to promote a product, I would absolutely be promoting myself, selling the product. I would make myself likable. I would get a front person who was a likable person to promote the brand, because people buy in what we call a social currency. That is, in order for someone to have any kind of power, any kind of influence in social media, I need to have some kind of currency in the space. And that is either I'm entertaining you, I'm educating you, I'm inspiring you, but I have to be doing something to add value to you. Not about me. It's not about me carnival barking all of my product. It's about me adding value to your life. And that is, again, through inspiration, education, entertainment. I'm doing something to add value to you. And to the extent that entrepreneur is able to add value, do it that way.
Now, from your experience, I think this is going to be so interesting, Mark. What has been your worst relationship with a client? A mistake that you'd say you learned a lesson from and you tell people,
Oh gosh. I do that. So I will actually, I will give a very clear one. At first I was like, ooh, I don't know. And then one came to mind. There was a married couple who owned a company. They owned a beauty brand based out in Phoenix. And they were an introduction from another source. And I will say we're amicable to everything. They loved everything we did. They were doing this. They were excited. And I would very much say they became friends, as most of our clients do. But they ran into trouble and I got overly involved in their business. And the one thing I learned, and that is while you can get personal with your clients and you can do these types of things, it's also essential to make sure that money never becomes part of the issue. These particular clients, they ran up a bill with us to upwards to nearly $100,000. And I kept extending them credit because I wanted them to do well. And they kept giving me all these sad stories. Like they would be fighting in their marriage and they would call me and I would sit on the telephone and try to help them resolve their arguments. And it got a little too much. And then sadly, even beyond that, they ended up with a big manufacturing issue. And I wrote them a check for $35,000 to take care of their manufacturing problem. And then they ended up filing bankruptcy on all of it. And I ended up having to sue them to try to get the money. And then to listen to the lies and everything that they even pulled in a court case was really disappointing, because at the end of it, what I'll say to that, Priscilla, is I got very involved in a client's business more than I needed to be and learned my lesson. And it cost me a lot of money. But I will say it's almost like what it felt like afterwards, because one of my staff people was like, oh my gosh, they're such horrible, terrible people. I'm like, they are, like, I'll give you that. But at the same time, it reminded me of like family relationship or anybody else when we try to swoop in and fix other people's problems, only to figure out that we can't solve everybody else's problem. People have to solve their problem. We can be for them, be there for them. We can listen to them. We can be in relationship with them. But at the end of the day, people are where they are. And you have to acknowledge that. So yes, I've gotten burnt really bad by clients who I tried to build a relationship with, but they were the wrong relationship. And again, I'll go back to a dating analysis and say the comparison there is how many times have we been in relationships that were just with the wrong person? And we did everything that we could to make it successful. And at the end of the relationship, it is what it is. Like, I can't control other people's actions, and I don't regret anything I did because I did what I thought was right. It'll change what I do again in the future. But at the same time, I've loaned a lot of money to a lot of people who've never repaid it. And I've helped a lot of people who probably wouldn't have said thank you. And at the end of the day, Priscilla, what I'll say is that I just keep hoping and praying that their terrible actions don't change me. Like, I don't want to be less generous of a person, and I don't want to be less genuine of a person because I've been burnt in the past. And I think that holds true in our dating and marital relationships too. Like, we all come to a marriage or come to a dating relationship. We all come there with baggage from past relationships. And it's our job to make sure that we don't affect the other person with our luggage, right?
yeah, it's such a powerful lesson. And thank you for sharing that, Mark. I think I'll almost end with the last question. If you could work on only one thing as a new entrepreneur, what would your one thing be in terms of marketing in today's environment?
So I personally am a kind of a fitness freak, but not in the way of being a CrossFit junkie, but I will say natural health. The majority of the clients that we deal with are all in the natural health space. And that is my personal mantra is I want to see people live beyond their potential. And most people, in my opinion, live way below what they're capable of. And I believe it's because they limit their belief system to believe something less than what is accurate. And what I mean by that is It's the people who I could never do that. Why? You've never tried. You have no idea if you could never do that. But one of my passion points is people who live beneath their optimal health. And that is, I believe that people give control of their health to an insurance company, or they give control of their health to a government, or they give control of their health to anybody else who calls themselves an expert. And my question is always, how much time have you spent trying to learn about this yourself? And yet literally your life depends on it. And yet you just believe anybody else, but you're not willing to do the work yourself. And most of the client that we represent and most of my personal time is very much spent in that health and wellness space. It's dealing with clients who who have products, who are supplements that can replace pharmacology, or medical devices that actually help people control things that they don't need pills anymore, and those types of things, increasing longevity, increasing quality of life. So that's what I would love to do. And that's what I do. I get to work with people like that on a regular basis who are able to make people's health better. And that's a big thing for me.
That's a great mission. Now, Mark, if you were to say the thing that has impacted your marketing the most, whether it's a book, a seminar, a course, or anything of that sort, what would you say that has been?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'll honestly say it's probably been trial and error. It has been, I've grown up around that. My father was a marketing guy. I spent most of my career in higher education as a college professor. I've seen a lot of do wrong and do right. But the reality is that I think working with clients and just really listening to their experiences, often I don't need to make the mistake in order to learn the lesson. I can learn the lesson from looking at other people's mistakes and just not repeating that behaviors. I would say that the biggest thing I've ever learned has been from just watching other people and upping my game and surrounding myself with like-minded people and putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I belong to a mastermind group that meets twice a year. And the first time I attended that group, I felt like an imposter because these people, in my opinion, were all so much better than me, so much more experienced than me, and so much further than me. And until I actually put myself in the position of being uncomfortable, I learned that they're really not that different. And yet they're some of the smartest and most ambitious people I've ever spent time around. So it was exciting to be in that space. So I would say surround yourself with people where you can learn lessons without having to make the mistakes.
That's a great one. Mark, our last question is always, what has faith meant to you on your journey?
Faith to me is invariable. And I will say that it is absolutely, I would be nowhere without my faith. I'm a Christian man and I will attribute my success to my God. But I will say from the standpoint of faith, I believe that I don't know how people face the world without faith, to be honest with you, especially the crazy world that we're in today. I don't know how people do it because even in the midst of, I'll say entrepreneurs are crazy people because we risk everything for a unknown reward, whether it's a reward or not, because it could go either way in most cases. And statistically, it doesn't go well. And I will say that faith keeps me grounded that there's something more even at the end of this. And I think, as it says in the book of Hebrews, faith is the substance of things hoped for, right? It's the evidence of things not seen. And I think it's important for us to realize that faith is, to a person of faith, it is tangible hope. And that keeps me excited.
Thank you for sharing that, Mark. And thank you so much for your time. To our audience, please go to dateyourclient.com and grab this book. Please begin to make relationships with your clients. Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah, there you go.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark.